What's up, guys? This is the Osmo.com Night Shift Podcast. We're talking MLB for Wednesday, August 22nd, 15 games total. We're going to go through it each game, talk about some pitching, maybe some stacks as well. Get to Osmo.com, check out our premium tab. You can sign up, get premium tools, including rankings and ownership projections from Osmo himself. Articles written by Osmo himself for this Wednesday slate. He will be doing his lineup card article, which is just slate-specific advice. Gives you sort of a breakdown of how he is approaching the slate. So one of my favorite articles he does, Spotlight Hitters, Pitchers, and Stacks will be out. We'll have the MLB strategy video with the live chat at about 9 Eastern. Actually, it's been closer to like 9:10 Eastern, so just give us a few minutes. Josh and I usually get on and talk about who we're on for the day, so we're sort of on the same page, and we just run a little bit late, so forgive us. All right, 15 games. Let's go. I'm just going to go through all of them. Baltimore, Toronto, David Hess going up against Thomas Panan. I don't know this Blue Jays pitcher, but I do know he's not stretched out. I don't expect him to go very long. Don't really love targeting Baltimore bats outside of Mancini. I like him for 3,300, especially if he's batting third, dual position eligibility. He'll probably be pretty popular on this slate, though, so not like a sneaky play by any means. And then David Hess, someone I like to target. I don't think he's the worst pitcher in the world, but and maybe the Blue Jays are going to be super chalky just because they have a 5.5 total. But it's hard not to like Smoke and Morales and Curtis Granderson, even though he gave us a goose egg a couple nights ago. Randall Grichuk, when he's down in the order, rarely gets used. So I kind of like using him when he's not batting leadoff. I know chance for extra at-bats and such, but just for ownership reasons, I like using Grichuk for 3,900 in the 7th spot. Blue Jays is probably going to be a pretty chalky play here. Cincinnati and Milwaukee, Robert Stevenson going up against Freddie Peralta. Stevenson is 4,100, but not using him here. Too tough of a lineup against Milwaukee in good hitting weather. If the roof is open, the wind will be blowing out, it looks like, in near 80 degrees in Milwaukee. This is a really fun Christian Yelich spot. Moustakas, Shaw, I mean, all the lefties are in very good spots. And then, I mean, I just don't think Stevenson is really any good. He can get strikeouts, but that's about it. He's going to give up a ton of hard hits, and I expect him to do that here. So I'm all over this Brewers stack, as I would assume most people on this early slate are going to be. Peralta, 7,500. He's been pretty much figured out by now. The swinging strikes and everything like that I look for, chase rate and all that, is down. Velocity down a little bit on his fastball, but nothing crazy. I just don't think he's as good as what he showed his first few starts when he kind of took the league by storm. So Cincinnati bats, Suarez is of course in play, and then Scooter Gennett's 5K. I actually like him a little bit in this spot on the early slate, just because I don't think many people will go there. And if you have the money, Gennett is a really nice pay up to be contrarian play against Peralta's slow fastballs, just over 90 miles an hour for Peralta. So not great stuff. Preston Tucker also makes some sense for 3,800. Twins and White Sox, Kyle Gibson going up against Carlos Rodon. Many people will go to the pitchers here. I think that is a pretty sound strategy. That's where I like to go. Gibson, I just think, is underrated. Can strike out righties very well. An awesome slider, as I've talked about a number of times. Not really worried about the balanced lineup. The White Sox are just striking out so much. I'm just going to continue to play pitchers against them. And, I mean, maybe a little bit of an overprice for Gibson, but honestly, I think he deserves this kind of price, even on the road in a, wind blowing out 10 miles an hour, 75 degrees. It's favorable hitting conditions, but I trust Gibson here for 9K, and I'm going to be having a lot of him on this early slate. Rodon, 9,300. he's gone at least 7 1/3 innings in 5 out of his last 6 starts. So, I mean, he just looks really solid, like, all around. This Twins lineup, Josh and I were kind of talking about it on the strategy video, that they've just got guys that it's like all their guys either strike out a ton or don't really strike out at all. Like, you got Mauer well under 20%, Forsythe under 20%, Rosario, same thing. It's a little bit different against lefties. Certainly some strikeout upside here for Rodon, but he's just been going deep, and I have no issue going to him once again. I think he can get enough strikeouts for him to be worth it, and like, there are 3 good arms up top on this early slate, but that's really about it. So these are 2 of them, in my opinion. So I'm going to both pitchers. Rangers and Athletics, we've got Mike Minor going up against Edwin Jackson. Minor, I cannot play here. I'm going to the A's once again. I love Mark Canha for 3,200. I think that's just a clear underprice. He hits lefties pretty well, 40% hard contact, doesn't strike out. I mean, he strikes out about league average, so I'm fine with that. A 325 ISO against lefties this year for Canha. Everybody knows Chris Davis can hit lefties, Matt Chapman as well. Pinder, if he's down in the lineup, I like that a lot. Dual position eligibility for 3,300, so I'm going to be going to a bunch of full Oakland stacks. There are 2 teams with higher totals than them that we've already talked about, the Blue Jays and the Brewers, but I think I might like the A's the best. Definitely like them over the Blue Jays, that's for sure. So Jackson is 8K. Just kind of keeps getting the job done. I don't see any like crazy swinging strike numbers or like just getting people to chase bad pitches or anything like that. So I guess there's a case to be made for Jackson, but if I'm going to the 8K price range, I just want to get up to Gibson or Rodon for that matter. So he's just not that caliber of a pitcher where I'd want to pay 8K for him. There's power on this Texas side. I don't really love the Texas stack, so I'm hoping Jackson and the Texas bats both stay relatively quiet. Houston and Seattle. Charlie Morton going up against Marco Gonzalez. Morton is 10K, going to get a lefty-heavy lineup for Seattle, and I actually prefer him against lefty-heavy lineups just because less people play him, and he strikes out lefties at a way higher clip. But you look at some of these lefties in this Seattle lineup, and you've got like Span, who strikes out 13% against righties. D. Gordon, under 15. Cruz is under 20. Segura doesn't really strike out all that much. Cano, same thing. So definitely a tough matchup for Morton. I want to see the ownership on him before I see where I'm going to go, because if he's going to be significantly lower owned than like a Rodon or Freddie Peralta, then I think it's a really good pay up to be contrarian spot for Morton. Kind of got to nail the pitching on the shorter slates. And I actually like Nelson Cruz against Morton if you're targeting against him. But that's really about it. I don't think I'm stacking against Morton. Gonzalez is 6,600. Not really any interest in him against this sick Houston lineup. His chase rate is still really good, Gonzalez's, but I don't think I can stomach playing him even for 6,600 when you've got Correa and Bregman and Springer possibly back. So it's just too tough. I like those top 4 for Houston a lot on this early slate. All right, Philadelphia and Washington. Now we've got the main slate. Zach Eflin going up against Steven Strasburg. Not going to pitching here. Wind blowing out, 81 degrees in D.C. Again, I'm going to be on some Nats, but it's mostly just going to be Harper and Soto. Soto is just underpriced, 4,100. I know Eflin is, he's a decent pitcher, does a good job limiting quality contact, but anytime Harper and Soto are at these prices, I'm definitely interested. So maybe not a full-on Nat stack for the first time in a while, but definitely some Harper and Soto for me. And then Strasburg is, he hasn't pitched for over a month, so I have no clue what his pitch count's going to be like, if he's done a bullpen session or what, but he didn't have any rehab starts that I saw. So for 9,900, I don't think you can go to him. Atlanta and Pittsburgh, Julio Teheran against Trevor Williams. Teheran is 8,100. Kind of talked about him yesterday. We weren't sure if it was going to be him or Gausman, but I don't really like Teheran here. I don't really like Trevor Williams, so again, not really going to much of the pitching. And then both pitchers I respect. Teheran can get strikeouts, especially against righties. So maybe some one-offs like Polanco, or if you want to go to a Josh Bell. The Pirates are decently cheap, but not even close to one of my favorite stacks on this main slate. And then Williams is just so good at limiting hard hits. Under 30% hard hit rate for him on the season. The xFIP isn't great. Like the K percentage isn't great at all. Swinging strikes, none of that stuff that I really look for. But he just kind of gets the job done and limits damage. So he's someone I've stopped targeting against. Someone that I was targeting against earlier in the season, and at least with full stacks. So I've kind of stopped doing that, and it's worked out. So Freeman makes for a fine one-off for 5,100, but I don't think I'll be going to many Brave stacks here, or really any at all. Yankees and Marlins, we've got Lance Lynn going up against Trevor Richards. Lynn is 8K going into Miami. I wonder if he's going to be chalky, because there are some righties. It's the Marlins, 3.4 total for Miami. I don't really love the spot for Lynn. I mean, there's enough lefties in there to make me a little bit worried. I mean, granted, they are like JT Riddle and Ortega and Derek Dietrich, not the scariest of lefty bats. We know Lynn is much better against righties. But I'm just kind of lukewarm on Lynn. Like, if he's going to be chalky, it's going to be a pretty easy fade for me. I don't expect him to have a big performance like we saw in his first couple Yankee starts. The Marlins, not a ton of strikeout upside unless you're like a Tanaka type guy where you can just go and mow down a lineup. I don't really think Lynn does that too often in this spot. So Trevor Richards is 5,800. This matchup really worries me, and it's the righties. It's Andujar and Gleyber Torres and Stanton. Richards can definitely get lefties out with that changeup. Gets a ton of whiffs on that. And against righties, it's kind of been a different story. So I like Gleyber a ton for 3,800, just underpriced at a second base position that isn't super deep. And then Andujar's 5K, which is kind of weird, righty-righty. But Stanton for 5,300 is someone that I will have a bunch of. I think he might go a little bit under-owned just because it's righty-righty and in a big park. It's a narrative for him, though, so maybe he won't be under-owned. I don't know. People buy into the narratives. That's not why I want to play Stanton. It's because I think he has a pretty good matchup with Trevor Richards. Cubs and Tigers, we've got John Lester going up against Francisco Liriano. Let me edit this. All right. Lester, 8,200. Going into Detroit, there is wind blowing out here. It's 75 degrees. I mean, I have pretty much no interest in Lester. Unless he was going to, for some reason, be 1% owned in this spot, there's really no reason for me to want to play Lester. He's so much better against lefties. I mean, average at best against righties, and gives up a lot of hard hits. Like, people are going to see Detroit, and I think Lester will be somewhat popular, but I honestly don't have any interest at all. I think there's going to be runs on both sides of this game. The Cubs will be popular, but I don't think the Tigers will be all that popular. So I'm all over Castellanos, Candelario, Nico Goodrum, even maybe some Mikey Matuk and James McCann as well. So I'm full stacking against John Lester. I do it all the time with righty-heavy lineups, and I just don't think people realize how subpar Lester is against righties. Cubs bullpen, 9th worst xFIP over the last 30 days as well. Liriano's 4,900 no interest in him. Cubs bats are going to be super chalky. I don't know that I need to talk about them that much. You know, kind of the guys you're looking to play. Bodie for 3,600, just a nice bargain. Javier Baez is 5K, dual position eligibility. Wilson Contreras, one of the more popular catchers, I'm sure, for this slate, is only 3,800. So, yeah, I think it's going to be another rough outing for Francisco Liriano and Lester, for that matter. So, if you're into game stacking, I think that's one that's going to go a little bit under-owned. Cleveland and Boston, we've got Carlos Carrasco against Brian Johnson. Carrasco is 9,500, missing just a ton of bats. Like, over the last 10 starts, he's just racking up strikeouts, not allowing a ton of runs, and the swinging strike rate is way up. Chases are way up. So this is the kind of guy that I think could survive in Boston, and I don't think I can get to playing Carrasco, although I don't think it's the craziest idea. Just because it's hard to look past these strikeout numbers like Kinsler, Nunez even. He's not a good hitter, but he just doesn't strike out. That's 13.5% against righties. Benintendi, same thing. So just not even a good strikeout matchup. Not even close. So I'm probably off Carrasco, but I am also going to be off of the Boston bats. Only a 4.4 total. A lot of respect for Carrasco for a Red Sox team in their home park. Brian Johnson for 6,300. Don't want to go to him. Another Jose Ramirez spot. It seems like every day is a Jose Ramirez spot. Like him from the right side, like him from the left side. It doesn't really matter. And then also I really like Yan Gomes for 4,200. Just crushing lefties this year. 144 WRC plus, 230 ISO. Near 50% hard hit rate for Yan Gomes. Kansas City and Tampa Bay. We've got Jake Junis going up against, I think it's going to be Stanek to start out for the Rays. And then I'm hoping, I'm thinking it's going to be Yanni Chirinos. But obviously keep an eye on that. The Rays have screwed us a couple times on this. So you're always taking a gamble when you're taking one of these Rays pitchers. I think it's going to be Chirinos. I'm about 70% sure right now, but a lot can change, so who knows. But I do have a ton of interest in Chirinos. He's 5,300. If he's going to pitch, it's a really awesome spot for him to come in, miss the good bats for Kansas City, like Merrifield and Perez, the first time around Duda, and get to feast on O'Hearn and Herrera, Brett Phillips, Alcides Escobar, these type of guys that some of them don't really have any business being MLB right now. But so Chirinos is 5,300. Just keep an eye out for that if he's going to go, if it's going to be someone else. Junis 7,200 in a good park. Has actually had a really nice stretch. So if you just pull up his game logs, which I like to do, just get an idea of how a guy is pitching. You look at his matchups as of late. They're not the toughest matchups in the world. He's survived against the White Sox twice, and then in between those two starts, the Cubs and the Cardinals. 4 straight games with double-digit swinging strike rates. 3 straight games, double-digit swinging strike rates, getting more chases. I don't have an issue using Junis here for 7,200. I like to get exposure to a bunch of pitchers, and honestly, I don't really know that I've mentioned really any that I like so far. So Junis for 7,200, a decent bargain. Lefty power has kind of been his issue, so it's a little bit worrisome of a matchup, but he threw 100 pitches in his last start, and that's becoming increasingly important to me, just the ability to go pretty deep into games, and Junis has that ability here. San Francisco and New York Mets. The Giants will be throwing out Casey Kelly against Noah Syndergaard. I don't really like Kelly at all here. Don't think there's much to be excited about. Don't expect him to be in this game very long. Threw 73 pitches in his last start, which is fine. He went 4 1/3 in Cincinnati, but I would not expect a repeat performance I really like Michael Conforto and even Wilmer Flores for 3,700. So some Mets bats here. Todd Frazier's been hitting righties well, 45% hard hit rate for him on the season. So I don't mind a few Mets bats here. And then Noah Syndergaard is by far my top option on the night. He's 10-2 through 115 pitches in his last start. That's pretty much all I needed to see. This is a bargain. We just saw what Zach Wheeler did to this Giants team in, I believe it was 6 or 7 innings. I can't remember, but a bunch of strikeouts. And Syndergaard swinging strike rate is back up to where it should be for a guy as talented as him. And this just seems like he's 1,500 to 2K, maybe even higher than that. Like maybe even more more underpriced than that. So I just love the spot. I love attacking San Francisco. I'm all over Noah Syndergaard, as I would expect most people will be. He's going to be probably the highest owned player on the slate, if I had to guess right now. San Diego and Colorado, Coors Field, Jacob Nix going up against John Gray. Nix is 4,100 coming off a disaster outing in Arizona. Obviously no interest in Nix. Colorado bat's going to be super, super popular here, as they should be. I will say, Nix's pitch mix of fastball, cutter, and changeup, like he could survive in Coors. I guess those pitches can survive in Coors. He doesn't throw like a big looping curveball or anything. I don't really think Nix is that good, though, so that's kind of an issue when you're going into Coors. Blackman, Arenado, David Dahl is 5,200, but he'll be played a ton, I'm sure. Anyone in this Colorado lineup is in play, 6.5 total for the Rockies. It may even be higher than that by the time you listen to this. Nick's not a super scary pitcher in a good park and in a good pitcher's park, and now you get the worst pitcher's park in the MLB. So the Rockies will be chalky, I have to imagine. John Gray, 7,800. I have a lot of interest in him. You saw what he can do in subpar matchups, 7 innings, 9 strikeouts against Atlanta in his last start, and I could see easily a repeat performance here. He's had huge games in Coors, kind of like the Tyler Anderson thing. But this is even a better matchup for Gray because he just dominates righties, can dominate lefties too. Like, it's just he's just getting the Coors discount for 7,800. It feels like all these pitchers are underpriced for some reason, but Gray is not going to go overlooked, I don't think. People kind of know to play. You can play him in Coors. You just get him at lower ownership. So I like Gray quite a bit, not really on the Padres bats. Angels and Diamondbacks. Odorizmir, I can't pronounce his name. Anyways, Despaigne going for the Angels against Clay Buchholz, 10K Clay Buchholz. So Despaigne, I'm not on him here. He's 4,400, so that's not the craziest punt. Like, he can at least go somewhat deep if things go well. 78 pitches in his last start, just 4 innings, allowed 5 earned runs. I don't see anything spectacular about him. Don't expect him to go more than like 5 innings, even if things are going well. David Peralta is 5,500. Kind of hard to pay up for him when you're looking at some of these Coors bats like Blackman and Carlos Gonzalez and David Dahl, who are all cheaper, but certainly a decent GPP play there. The Diamondbacks are super priced up, especially their 2 through 5, which are the guys I like to use. So Diamondbacks would be a pretty contrarian stack. I don't know how much of them I'll get, or I guess I'll have to see how my model likes them, but usually it likes them a decent amount. So Diamondbacks would be a pretty contrarian stack against Despaigne in that Angels bullpen. Buchholz is 10K. I would have interest in using Buchholz once again if we didn't have like 3 viable pitchers, or maybe even 4 if you count Carrasco, that are around the 10K range. So like, it's not the price that's getting me off of Buchholz. It's just I don't think he's got a ton of upside. Even when he threw a complete game shutout, actually, against the Padres in San Diego last time out, he only had 33.7 DraftKings points. Now, that's fine, but just 6 strikeouts. Like, it's just not a great strikeout matchup here anyways. It's a park downgrade. So, like, if it was just Syndergaard on the slate and you wanted to get a similar lineup construction to the people that play Syndergaard and he was going to be 40% and Buchholz was going to be, 5%, then I understand, like, the pivot. But I just think there are much better pivots. So that's my reasoning for being off of Buchholz. I don't think this is even that crazy of a price for him with no Trout in the Angels lineup, and I don't even see Ohtani in here either. So just an avoid for Buchholz and the Angels bats for me. Cardinals, Dodgers, last game of the night. Jack Flaherty going up against Walker Buehler. Flaherty is 10-9. He's going to be too expensive for me just against this scary Dodgers lineup. I do respect Flaherty enough, though, where I don't think I'll be on a full Dodgers stack. Just bits and pieces like Bellinger, maybe even Machado, and Justin Turner. But that's really about it. I really respect Flaherty. I really like what I see from him. And not going to be going to a ton of Dodgers for the first time in a while. Walker Buehler is 10-4. Not a guy I've played a lot, but I think that may change here depending on how chalky Noah Syndergaard is. I mean, I think Syndergaard has the best chance to lead the slate in raw points, but if there's a big ownership discrepancy tomorrow morning, when we look at this, Buehler would be the guy I would like to pivot to. 4 straight games for him with double-digit swinging strikes. Had impressive outings in Seattle and in Coors as well. So just a good run here for Buehler. Looks like he's pitching at the top of his game, and he's going to get a bunch of righties for the Cardinals. So really like this matchup for Buehler. The Cardinals only have a 3.6 run total, so not really on bats in this game. And Buehler is a pretty interesting GPP pivot depending on Syndergaard. All right, that's going to do it for the night shift. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Come hang out with us in the MLB strategy video tomorrow morning. Read Osmo's article. The lineup card comes out about 4 Eastern. Check out the daily game plan. Spotlight hitters, pitchers, stacks. Josh and I will be on the live stream, I believe, again for the Wednesday slate. Good luck, and we will see you in the morning.